The steaming cup slipped from the man's hand with cruel intention instead of clumsiness. Hot coffee exploded across the single father's faded shirt, soaked the papers he had spent weeks preparing, and dripped onto the cafe floor while laughter echoed through the crowded room. Every customer turned to stare. Some looked away in embarrassment. Others watched with silent curiosity. Standing only a few feet away was the CEO everyone in the city admired, witnessing every humiliating second. But what happened next wasn't shouting, revenge, or violence. The single father's calm, unexpected move stopped every conversation, froze the bully where he stood, and left the entire cafe holding its breath. Before we continue, if you believe kindness is stronger than cruelty and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in compassion, and subscribe to Moments Hub. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories that remind us humanity still matters. Nathan Brooks had learned years ago that life rarely gave warnings before everything changed. For years earlier, he had been an ordinary husband, a father, and a respected financial analyst who believed hard work always led somewhere better. Then a tragic highway accident took his wife, Emily, leaving him alone with their 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Grief came like waves that never stopped crashing. Bills continued arriving even while his heart refused to heal. Friends slowly disappeared as life pulled them in different directions. Employers admired his experience but quietly questioned whether a single father could remain fully committed. Every interview ended with polite smiles and promises that never turned into phone calls. By the time Lily turned 10, Nathan had accepted almost any honest work available. During mornings he delivered office supplies. Afternoons were spent doing bookkeeping for small neighborhood businesses. Late at night, after Lily had fallen asleep, he completed online certification courses hoping someone would eventually notice his determination rather than his difficult circumstances. Their apartment was tiny, their furniture mismatched, and every dollar was carefully planned before being spent. Yet Lily never complained. She often reminded her father that their home felt warmer than larger houses because love filled every room. Nathan's greatest fear wasn't poverty. It was disappointing the little girl who still believed he could fix anything. Every evening she waited by the apartment window for him to return, running into his arms regardless of how exhausted he looked. She proudly told classmates that her father was the strongest man in the world, not because he lifted heavy things, but because he smiled even on hard days. One rainy Monday morning, Nathan received an email that made his hands tremble. A respected investment company had finally agreed to meet him regarding a senior financial operations position. The interview wasn't guaranteed employment, but it represented hope unlike anything he had experienced in years. He spent the entire night reviewing reports, organizing financial proposals, and ironing the only dress shirt he owned. The interview location surprised him. Instead of the corporate headquarters, the recruiter requested a quiet downtown cafe where senior executives often held informal meetings. Nathan arrived 40 minutes early. He ordered the cheapest coffee on the menu, found a corner table, and carefully arranged every document inside a weathered leather folder. His shirt wasn't new, but it was spotless. His shoes had been polished until they reflected the morning sunlight pouring through the windows. Across the cafe sat a distinguished older man reading business reports while occasionally observing people around him. Few customers recognized him, but he happened to be Victor Langston, the company's legendary CEO. Rather than announcing his presence, Victor preferred watching people naturally. Years leading thousands of employees had taught him something important. Character revealed itself during ordinary moments, not rehearsed interviews. Another customer entered moments later. Derek Mason was everything Nathan wasn't. Expensively dressed, loudly confident, and surrounded by two co-workers eager to laugh at every joke, Derek enjoyed making himself the center of attention. He worked for a competing company and carried himself with the arrogance of someone who had never faced meaningful consequences. When he noticed Nathan's worn briefcase and inexpensive clothing, an amused smile spread across his face. At first Derek limited himself to sarcastic remarks loud enough for nearby customers to hear. He mocked people who chased dreams they couldn't afford. He joked about bargain suits and cheap coffee. Nathan recognized the insults but remained focused on reviewing his presentation. Years of hardship had taught him that responding to every cruel person only wasted precious energy. Derek mistook silence for weakness. He walked directly toward Nathan's table carrying his fresh cup of coffee. His shoulder brushed against Nathan with unnecessary force. The coffee flew through the air before crashing across Nathan's chest, soaking his carefully prepared documents. Brown liquid spread over printed financial projections, handwritten notes, certificates, and recommendation letters gathered over months of effort. The cafe became silent. Nathan looked down as droplets rolled from his sleeves onto the floor. Some papers had become unreadable. Others curled from the moisture almost immediately. Derek laughed while pretending the collision had been accidental. His co-workers joined him, shaking their heads with fake sympathy. Many customers expected Nathan to explode with anger. Instead, he slowly picked up each damaged page with remarkable care. He placed every soaked document back into the folder one at a time. Then he removed a neatly folded handkerchief from his pocket and quietly wiped the spilled coffee from the table, not because he had caused the mess, but because an employee was already rushing over carrying towels. Nathan didn't want anyone else cleaning around him while he still could. His calmness unsettled everyone. Without looking at Derek, Nathan bent down and gently picked up the ceramic coffee cup that had rolled across the floor. It hadn't broken. He carefully walked over to Derek and placed the cup back into his trembling hands. Then, for the first time, Nathan looked directly into the bully's eyes. His expression contained no hatred. Only quiet dignity. Nathan simply nodded once before returning to his seat. The cafe remained completely silent. Even Derek's friends stopped smiling. Victor Langston slowly lowered his newspaper. For decades he had negotiated billion-dollar deals, survived economic crises, and built one of the country's most respected companies. Yet he rarely witnessed genuine emotional strength displayed so naturally. Nathan had every reason to seek revenge, create a scene, or demand justice. Instead, he had demonstrated a level of self-control impossible to fake. Victor stood. Every employee inside the cafe instantly recognized him. The room shifted from curiosity to astonishment. Victor walked toward Nathan instead of the interview area. He asked if he could sit down. Nathan apologized for his appearance, embarrassed by his stained shirt and ruined paperwork. Victor smiled gently and said appearances had never impressed him nearly as much as character. The CEO then asked a question Nathan would never forget. He wanted to know why Nathan hadn't humiliated the man responsible. Nathan answered honestly. He explained that Lily watched everything he did, even when she wasn't physically present. Every decision he made shaped the example she would carry into adulthood. If he answered cruelty with cruelty, she might someday believe anger solved problems. He refused to teach her that lesson. Victor remained silent for several seconds. The recruiter hurried across the cafe looking confused because the scheduled interview had technically already begun. Victor smiled. He announced that the interview was over. Nathan's heart sank. For one painful second he believed everything had fallen apart before it even started. Then Victor continued speaking. He explained that resumes measured experience. Interviews measured knowledge. But unexpected moments measured integrity. Nathan had just passed the most important test without realizing one existed. The CEO extended his hand across the table. Every customer watched as Nathan accepted it. Victor publicly offered him the position. Not because he pitied a struggling single father. Not because coffee had ruined his documents. But because a company trusted with billions required leaders who remained calm when embarrassed, respected others when insulted, and protected their values when nobody expected them to. The cafe erupted into applause. Several customers stood. Even employees behind the counter clapped through tears. Derek's confident smile disappeared completely. He quietly gathered his belongings, hoping to leave unnoticed. Before he reached the door, Victor asked him to stop. The CEO didn't insult him. He didn't threaten lawsuits or public embarrassment. Instead, Victor simply said that every company eventually reflects the character of the people it rewards. He wished Derek success but admitted he would never hire someone who believed humiliating strangers demonstrated confidence. Those words carried more weight than any argument. Derek left without saying another word. Nathan began his new position 2 weeks later. The salary transformed his family's life almost immediately. Lily finally had her own bedroom. Nathan replaced old appliances one piece at a time instead of repairing them endlessly. More importantly, he no longer worked 3 exhausting jobs just to survive. Evenings belonged to his daughter again. They cooked dinner together, read books, visited parks, and laughed more often than they had in years. Yet Nathan never forgot the cafe. Months later, he quietly established a company program that provided career opportunities for single parents struggling to return to professional work. Many talented people simply needed someone willing to see their ability instead of judging their circumstances. Victor proudly supported the initiative. The program grew beyond anyone's expectations. Hundreds of families eventually found stable careers because one man's dignity inspired another man's leadership. Lily often asked why strangers occasionally thanked her father. Nathan always answered the same way. Kindness travels farther than we ever see. Long after people forget our names, they remember how we made them feel. Years later, employees still shared the story of the coffee incident with every new manager joining the company. Not because a bully embarrassed someone in public, but because one quiet decision changed countless lives. If Nathan had answered anger with anger, everyone would have forgotten the moment by the next week. Instead, he answered humiliation with grace. That became unforgettable. Before we reach the ending, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment with this simple message: kindness is never weakness. Your words may encourage someone reading the comments who is fighting a difficult battle today. Life rarely announces the moments that define us. Sometimes they arrive disguised as embarrassment, disappointment, or unfair treatment. The world often expects loud reactions because quiet strength is so rare. But true character isn't revealed when everything goes according to plan. It's revealed when someone has every reason to lose control and still chooses compassion. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or reminded you that dignity is stronger than pride, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Moments Hub. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind the world that one act of kindness can change a life, and sometimes, many lives. Because in the end, the coffee stains disappeared. The ruined papers were replaced. The bully walked away forgotten. But the quiet courage of a single father became the moment an entire cafe, and eventually hundreds of families, would never forget.